Just another quick rant, about this preterism. It seems like everybody today is like a full preterist at this point. Like, say, for instance, like the other day, I joined a new random channel on YouTube. They were doing a live stream. I joined, and I get talking to this guy, and it turns out he mentioned, like halfway through the conversation, oh, yeah, I would consider myself to be a full preterist. And I was thinking to myself, it's like, well, here we go again. It's like, anywhere you go, you run into these people with this strange belief. It's really bizarre if you think about it. Like, how is there are so many people that are out there right now who have convinced themselves that, we're living in the kingdom, well, metaphorically so called living in the kingdom, and that Christ is ruling over the nations today. It's like it logically doesn't even make any sense. It's like, first of all, there's a lot of countries on earth where it's banned to read the Bible out in public and to even be a Christian, right? You have to, like, read the Bible or hold Bible study behind closed doors so, nobody sees you doing it because you could get reported and, locked up for that doing it in certain countries. Like, I know at one time, well, like over in China or Japan, the Bible was banned. It might be opening up a little bit now, but the point is, for a while over in those countries, it was banned. And in a lot of places in the world to this very day, it's still banned. So it's like, well, how the hell is Christ ruling over the nations and the nations in obedience to him if you go to some nations on earth, you're not even allowed to talk about Christ or the Bible out in public because you could get in trouble for doing that? And then, second of all, how the hell could Christ be ruling the nations and the nations in obedience today unto him if there's many countries in the world where like 90% of the population is Hindu or Muslim? Like, I mean, seriously, think about that. Like, there's literally countries on earth where like 80 to 90% of the population is like Muslims or believes in Hinduism or like, witchcraft or, you know, what is it, voodoo? Right, voodoo. That's a popular religion when you go to like, Haiti or Dominican Republic, and other developing nations, right? That's like a big practice over there. But the point is there's so many people around the world. Like, say, for instance, if we do a quick Google search for the world's most popular religions, the number one most popular religion is Christianity, the second is Islam, and the third is Hinduism. And there's like 50,000 other religions out in the world. But the point of the matter is that Hinduism and Islam have over 1 billion followers each. So that's 2 billion people in the world who don't follow Christ, and let alone the billion other atheists in the world. And how many other, billion of other people who believe in some type of other pagan deities of some sort or another. So again, it begs the question, like, how the hell is Christ ruling the nations today and the people are in obedience unto him? Like, again, that's what the preterist claim is, right? When I've talked to literally dozens of preterists over the years, and they'll tell you, well, yeah, Christ is ruling the nations are in obedience unto him today. It's like, how the hell does that make any damn sense? Like, how the hell, say, for instance, did you know that many nations on earth, they promote abortion? The God of the Bible is not with that. So if the nations were in obedience and following Christ's guidelines and regulations, well, then why the hell would they be promoting these things that Christ or God is against? Like, I mean, seriously, logically think about that for a second. The scriptures talk about in the prophecies that the nation and kingdom that would not let Christ rule over them, they shall utterly perish and fall by the sword. That obviously isn't happening today. Why? Because, well, obviously that's in the future. It hasn't came to pass yet. Because the kingdom is actually going to be a physical place here upon this earth, in the future, right? It's not a metaphorical thing, that's somehow happening today. It's like, no, that's not true. And you know what else I find funny with these preterists? Like, every verse that you go to in the Bible, like, we could bring up Zechariah 12, we could bring up Isaiah 14, we could bring up Revelation chapter 4, we could bring up Matthew chapter 8. Whatever chapter in the Bible you bring up, these guys are going to be, they're going to be consistent with the answer they'll give you. They'll say, it's all just metaphoric, right? It's all parabolic. It's not literal, right? It doesn't mean that. Like, shit, I'll give you an example. Like, I was talking to this one dude, Truth and Tell his ministry, and he was telling me that, when you read Genesis, when it talks about God creating the great whales in the sea and the forest of all types of birds and lizards and, dwelling creatures upon the land, he was saying, oh, well, that's actually metaphoric to mean people. It's like, hold up, what the hell? So it's like, how the hell could that be metaphorical for people if you literally read like the chapter or two after that, then it talks about God creating man upon the earth. So how the hell could the animals be metaphorical to be talking about the people? If literally a chapter or two later, God then describes how he created man upon the earth. So how the hell could the animals represent people or other nations? that's just stupid, man. That doesn't make any sense. And then the guy's talking about, well, I believe that there was a local flood, right? It wasn't actually a worldwide event that happened. It was just like a regional event, which, I've heard the idea from other people before. I mean, I don't believe in that, obviously. The Bible clearly talks about that it was an entire worldwide event that took place. Like, say, for instance, when you read from Genesis chapter 6 to chapter 9, it talks about how the entire earth got covered. Literally, all the mountains were covered underwater, all the trees were covered. There was no dry land, right? And then Noah sent out a dove from the ark to try to find a a tree that it could land on, because if it doesn't come back to Noah, that will mean that it actually found a branch of a tree to nest upon. That would mean the waters are, receding and, disappearing, right? They're dispersing. So the water levels are dropping. If the bird doesn't come back, because the land is starting to become available for the creatures again. But the bird came back a couple times. And then a few times after that, he sent it out and it didn't come back. Why? Because the land was starting to appear. Like, say for instance, the last time it came back to him with a leaf, right? Came back to Noah with a leaf, and then he sent it out again, and it didn't return to him. And he was like, oh, okay, well, somewhere, the water's starting to, disappear, right? They're starting to dissipate, right? But the point is that all the land was covered. Like, say, for instance, it talks about the top of the mountains were covered, right? All the mountains on earth at one point were covered with water. That doesn't happen in a regional flood. And another point that I brought up to this guy, which completely confounded him, is I asked him, what about, like, even some of the tallest mountains in the world, like Mount Everest, for example? They have seashells and sea urchins and, other fossilized sea creatures that are, like, at the peaks of these mountains all over the world. Specifically, let's say, for instance, Mount Everest, which is the tallest mountain in the world. What is it, like 29,000 feet tall? Look it up. And, there's no answer they can give. All they can try to say, oh, well, it's made up, or, people put it there as a prank, or, whatever. It don't mean nothing. It's like, well, it does mean something, because it shows that at one point they were underwater. So, I mean, it means something. So the local flood, can't answer that. Because clearly, if you read the Bible, it was actually a worldwide phenomenon that happened. It was not just a regional event that took place. Like, say, for instance, at one point I didn't bring up that I thought about, is if you just read the story, it talked about all the life on earth except for the animals in the ark and the 8 people in the ark, all other life got wiped out. So how the hell could there be, just a regional flood and not a worldwide flood if it said that all the life on the earth and all the substances and greenery and all that got wiped out in the flood except for the people on the ark and the animals? So that doesn't make any damn sense. What this guy was talking about. Or, it's not only that individual. I mean, there's a lot of other dudes on the internet who are teaching a doctrine like that. Again, it's just really bizarre, right? It's really bizarre today, what a lot of people are coming up with. But something I am curious about with the preterist position, it's like, if y'all believe that all the verses in the Bible about, like, the end of the world, and say, for instance, like, the stars falling from heaven, or, the people in riots, or, All of the other things it talks about, like the sky being burned up. What is that? 2 Peter 3:10 on down, right? The heavenly sky above us being burned up and melting away. I mean, yeah, shit, that hasn't happened yet. The closest thing that's ever happened that's closer to that would be the dropping of the atomic bomb in World War II. But a preterist can't talk about that though because that's in modern history. That's not in ancient history. So that would line up with what we're talking about the Bible propheting. What's the word I'm looking for? Speaking about things that are in our modern day today compared to just being fulfilled 2,000 years ago. So they can't even quote World War II because that's modern time. That's not ancient time. So that would contradict their statement if they were to go there. But that's the only account that's similar to what the Bible's talking about there. All they can try to say, it's not literal. Because in 70 AD, the skies, they weren't on fire. Like I guarantee if you were to look up in the sky during 70 AD, if you're standing in Jerusalem or surrounding the city, it's going to be peaceful. There's going to be doves flying, seagulls flying, or, whatever birds they got in the region, right? They're not going to have a care in the world. They're going to have a bird's eye view of the destruction going on down beneath. So that doesn't fit what the Bible talks about. So all these guys can do is say, it ain't literal. It's not literal. It's like, okay, well, like, what is literal in the Bible then? Like, at this point, y'all should say that Christ didn't even die on the cross. Like, that should be not literal to you guys, too. Like, why do you take that as true and you can trust the text for what it says, but every other verse about the end of the world is just metaphorical and you can't believe what it says. Because it has like some symbolic meaning or deep parable behind it. It just is strange to me. It's bizarre to hold that type of viewpoint. But I don't want to go on too much of a rant. I just wanted to quickly touch on those couple of topics, and I'll wrap the video up there.